The emergency room is a place of organized chaos, a symphony of beeping machines and hurried footsteps. But after 2 a.m. it settles into a different rhythm. A heavy quiet descends, punctuated only by the soft hum of monitors and the occasional cough from a patient in the hallway. It was in this unnerving stillness that 23-year-old Clara found herself on a Tuesday night. Fresh out of nursing school, she was barely 6 months into her career, her bright eyes still holding a spark of idealism that the ER hadn't yet managed to extinguish. She was on her break, tucked away in a small alcove, trying to choke down a cold sandwich. Suddenly, the automatic doors hissed open, but not with the usual urgency of a medical crisis. A man swaggered in, and the air immediately grew thick and cold. He wasn't injured, at least not visibly. He was tall, built like a brick wall, with a tapestry of tattoos crawling up his neck and onto his face. His eyes, small and hard, scanned the room with a predator's gaze, dismissing the elderly woman with a cough and the tired father holding a sleeping child. They landed on Clara. She felt his stare like a physical touch and instinctively froze. He moved towards her, his heavy boots echoing on the polished floor. Every step was a drumbeat of impending doom. He cornered her in the alcove, his sheer size blocking out the dim light of the ER. The stench of stale smoke and something acrid wafted from him. "You," he growled, his voice a low rumble. "You're a nurse! Get me some oxy, now!" Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. This was the kind of scenario they warned you about in training, but never truly prepared you for. Her voice was a small, reedy thing when she finally found it. "Sir, I can't do that. You need to be checked in, and a doctor has to prescribe medication." A cruel smile twisted his lips. "I don't think you understand," he sneered, leaning in closer. "I'm not asking." He raised a hand, his knuckles scarred and bruised, and for a terrifying second, Clara saw her entire future flash before her eyes. The world narrowed to that fist, the wall behind her, and the suffocating fear that stole her breath. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the impact, but it never came. Instead, a new sound cut through the silence. The scrape of a chair, then another and another. Clara hesitantly opened her eyes. The tired-looking man who had been sitting in the corner, nursing a cup of coffee, was now on his feet. His posture had changed. The exhaustion was gone, replaced by a steely resolve. He was an off-duty cop, Detective Miller, whose partner Clara had helped stabilize after a nasty car chase just last month. Across the waiting room, 2 large men who had been quietly talking rose, in unison. They were firefighters from Ladder 17. Clara had spent 2 hours cleaning and dressing the severe burns on their arms after a warehouse fire, her gentle touch a stark contrast to the blaze they'd battled. They weren't smiling now, their faces were grim masks of protection. From a gurney in the hallway, a man with a shaved head and a prosthetic leg swung his good leg over the side and stood up, his military bearing unmistakable. He was a retired Marine, Sergeant Stone, who'd come in with a severe case of pneumonia. Clara had sat with him, listening to his stories of Fallujah while making sure his oxygen levels stayed normal. One by one they stood. A grizzled construction worker she'd treated for a broken wrist, a quiet IT guy she'd reassured through his first panic attack, a delivery driver whose mangled hand she had painstakingly cleaned. They weren't just patients anymore. They were a silent, imposing wall of humanity, a living shield. They began to close in, their footsteps a quiet, menacing rhythm that replaced the thumping of Clara's heart. The gang member's smug expression faltered. His eyes darted from one stony face to the next, a flicker of confusion, turning to dawning horror. The hunter had become the hunted. The power dynamic in the room had shifted so completely, so suddenly, it was like a physical shockwave. He was no longer a predator cornering a lone nurse. He was a fool who had just threatened the little sister of an entire platoon. Detective Miller spoke, his voice low and dangerously calm. "I think you should leave, now." The gangster's bravado crumbled. He took a half step back, then another, his eyes wide with panic. He looked at the circle of men, at their unwavering gazes, and then back at Clara, who was now peeking out from behind the firefighter's broad shoulder. In her eyes, he didn't see fear anymore. He saw the reflection of the men who stood for her. The gangster's raised fist, once a symbol of his power, now seemed pathetic. It dropped to his side. He tried to say something, a sputtered excuse, but the words caught in his throat. Sergeant Stone took a single, deliberate step forward, and that was all it took. The gangster dropped to his knees, his hands raised in surrender. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm leaving, he whimpered, his voice cracking. Clara watched, her breath still hitched in her chest, as two uniformed officers, called by the triage desk, came and calmly escorted the now sobbing man away. The tension in the room finally broke. The firefighters, the cop, the Marine, they all seemed to deflate, turning back into the tired, hurting men they were just moments before. Detective Miller turned to her, his expression softening. You okay, kid? Clara could only nod, tears of relief finally spilling down her cheeks. The firefighter, whose name was Dave, gave her a gentle pat on the shoulder. We got you, Clara. Always. In that moment, Clara understood something profound. Nursing wasn't just about medicine and procedures, it was about connection. Every patient she had treated, every hand she had held, every fear she had soothed. It wasn't a one-way street. She wasn't just giving care. She was building a community, a family, in the unlikeliest of places. That night, in the quiet aftermath, Clara didn't feel like a rookie anymore. She felt like a part of something much bigger. She was protected by a silent army she had built herself, one act of kindness at a time. And as she watched her wall of brothers settle back into their seats, she knew, with absolute certainty, that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Her ER wasn't a place of fear. It was home. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched you, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content that celebrates the quiet heroes among us. See you next time.